so back then, I started recording and all that, and then I received in the mail, I was already married, I received in the mail a letter, Maestro Ángel Romero, and I opened it, and it was from Federico Moreno Torroba. Of all people.
You knew already?
No.
Really?
And it was asking me if I wanted to play, you know, some concertos or something, you know, and so that's, you know, my memory is a little vague, but I remember that letter because I kept it for a long time. I can't find it now. But my relation with him became major with the great Torroba, Federico Moreno Torroba, and then did so much for the guitar, you know, and he wrote so many things for Segovia, you know, and so then he dedicated to me Homenaje a la Seguidilla, Homenaje a la Seguidilla concerto. So on EMI, I recorded it with him conducting, and I did the Casino Tedesco concerto on the same record, and he screwed up so many of my takes because I would play and then I would get to the cadencia and I would start the cadencia and he would go, bravo, increíble, and the red light, beep, will you please tell the maestro? Then the microphones are on. And here, you know, in London, you know, Don Federico, que está el micrófono, ¿verdad? Sí, no importa. I go like this. It was Hermann Hauser the second. Guten Tag, with a big smile. I say, oh, Hauser, come in. Jawohl, ja, gut, schön, yeah. So, and he's carrying a guitar. And he says, he puts it in front of him and he goes, for Sie! For you. And I said, what? For Sie? I made it for you. So I opened it. This was about 4 p.m. We were on stage at 8. The quartet, you know, Pepe in his rooms, my father. So I took it and I opened it and I said, fantastic, cedar. Because, see, they hadn't been doing cedar until I started opening my big mouth to them and saying, you know, cedar is what I like. So it was a cedar. Beautiful guitar. I started playing it. And that night I played it in the concert with Hauser there. But then the whole tour, my father kept coming to my room. Ángel, enséñame la guitarra. So he would play it. Oh, me encanta. Esto es lo más grande. Finally, he would say, can I play it tonight? In different, you know, places in France and everything. I said, okay, papa, sí, hombre. So he would play my Hauser, the one given to me, built for me, delivered by him. So finally, I got fed up with it, and I said, papa, para ti, te la doy, I give it to you. Gracias, Ángel. Me encanta, esto es lo más grande del mundo. He's recording, if you see it on Angel EMI, of the 12 Granados dances, my father's with that guitar. And everybody admiring La Hauser, oh, your father's guitar, oh, unbelievable. And I would go like, you know, like, yeah, unbelievable. So I said, yeah. So then when my dad got ill and with terminal cancer, and he was faced with the horrible thing as we were, we could give a damn about any guitar. You know, they could have all just been run over by a truck. My father was dying. And he came, I remember, to the living room in San Diego, carrying the guitar. And he said to my brothers, todas las guitarras, all the guitars will be divided. But this one is not. This one has to go back to Anaheim.
Angel, how about Segovia? Because I know that when you guys started to tour, you met Segovia several times, and You know, how was that contact? What happened?
The Segovia, when the night before I played, you know, he was one of my biggest idols. But the night I played the Chacon the next day in New York, I called him. I found out that he was at Castro Viejo, a very close friend of his, eye surgeon, the one who developed the retina transplant and all this stuff. And so I got the phone number, I don't remember how, and I called and I said, Maestro, sí, ¿quién habla? You know, like, I said, Ángel Romero. Ah, de los Romero, la familia de guitarra, eh? Yes. Sí, maestro. Ah. And then I said, and he says, little conversation, very little. Then he said, in Spanish, of course, what are you doing in New York? And I said, well, giving a concert. Ah, when? And I said, tomorrow. And what are you playing? And I said, La Chacona de Bach. Ah, he says, hey, La Chacona de Bach, and how old are you? You know, 14, something. And he says, a violinist friend of mine, in Spanish, told me that the Chacon should not be played until after you're 42. 42, not 43, you know, like. And my mind went like, great encouragement, you know, for a kid and is about to bust his behind on stage, play the Chacon. And none better than him, he knows what it takes. So I paused and I said, oh, Maestro, you know, another friend of my violinist also told me that you shouldn't play the Chacon or anything else after you're 60, so neither you or I can play it. I said, I called you to ask you for the music of the Fantasia, for a Gentil Hombre, but really I don't want to talk. End of the conversation. Years went by. I continued admiring him, but I didn't think it was that nice, you know, what had happened. So I didn't...
And you were 14, 15 years old?
15 years old, yeah. So then I continued my career, and then some years later, I think he called and asked my mother or something if I would come to his concert. It was like 20 years later, 25. And I didn't go. You know, I wasn't resentful, but I just didn't want to face it anymore. And because, you know, he really liked his satellites, you know, then revolved around his thing. Which in a way I was also, because I had developed a lot of my love for the instrument through him. But so then I was playing in New York, the performance, you know, at Avery Fisher Hall or Carnegie Hall or something, the following day, and I saw him advertised in Carnegie Hall. So I was playing Lincoln Center, a recital one, I think his last one or whatever. So I had just played the night before. The night before I had played De Aranjuez with Jimmy the Priest and at the Kennedy Center in Washington, and I had flown that morning. So I went to the concert, you know, just I'll go incognito, you know, like whatever, and he played very well, you know, just considering he was 80 something, 90 years old, I think. He was unbelievable, and he got through somehow the Bach fugue and stuff. So then I went backstage to the stage that I knew, so backstage room that I had 20 times in my career already, you know, fortunately enough in Carnegie, and there he was, you know. So, and all the guitarists, they were high, and I was like quiet, you know, like. So I went up to him and I said, Maestro, sí? I said, fantástico, gracias. I said in Spanish, can you autograph my program for me? So he took the pen, took the glasses. ¿Cómo te llamas? What's your name? I was going to say Paco Gustavo, some other name because I didn't know what he would say in public, like tell me I'm go away or something. But I finally, said, Ángel Romero. He put the pen down and he looked at me and he says, and you could hear a pin drop, in the dressing room. Con que tú eres Angelito Romero, eh? I said, sí, maestro. He shakes his head and he says in Spanish, enséñame esas manos que son tan fenomenales. Show me those hands that are so phenomenal. And so that was it. And so then I saw at the Metropolitan Museum, then his guitar was there, the Hauser 37 or something. And, but behind glass, big thick glass with big screws and totally can't just get near from the front. And he had a letter from his wife saying, no hands will ever touch this instrument. Then still will have forever the vibrations of my husband's hands. So I went, and I said, and what is the story of these guitars? I said, he said, one of the guys there says, Bream, everybody has wanted to see these guitars, but they're not to be touched. You see, it says the hands like mano. No other hands will ever touch it. Okay. So, but he looked at me, he said, call on Tuesday. So my wife, second wife, Susan, called and they said, tell Angel to come. So I went, they closed that part of the museum at the Met, and there was guards and engineers came in with big and removed the thing of the guitar. The curator came, handed it to me, said, here, play it, do whatever you want. And I said, but it says here, no hands. And he says, bad memory. I was backstage when Segovia kissed your hands. Your hands are not included in this note. So that was...
I know that throughout your life you met a lot of people, not just from the guitar world, but from the music world, and also from the pop music world, and also pop figures in general. Can you tell us a lot more about that?
Yeah,
and movie stars, by the way.
And movie stars.
Movie stars, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Funny stories are allowed here.
Huh?
Funny stories are allowed.
Okay.
You can say whatever you want.
Yes. I had a great fortune of meeting a lot of people that now I only see them in biographies when I go to the bookstore.
Let me add to that question. Yeah. You grew up in the 60s. You were in California in the 60s. Did that atmosphere, California in the 60s, affect you? Or did you start to meet the pop people during that time, or was that later?
It was later. Well, 60s, late 60s is when I met, I was at a little coffee shop, not a coffee shop, a Mexican restaurant, Casa Camargo, and it belonged to Benny Camargo and his brother, and it was a little tiny restaurant in Palm Springs. So I'm sitting there with Wendy, my first wife, and she's facing the hallway where people are walking and stuff, and the bars here, and I'm having just a little bite to eat, some tacos in front of me. I was a kid, 18 years old or something, and I all of a sudden hear footsteps from behind, and I hear Maestro Romero, and at 18, turn from Maestro, I felt obnoxious, turning, but I turned, and with his hand out like this and a huge smile was Frank Sinatra. So oh my God, he says, I am Frank Sinatra. I said, really? No kidding, are we in Palm Springs? And Jules Brenner, which Frank wasn't too happy because Jules started saying some obscenity or something, it's a cursing, and he shut him up. Shut up! Can't you see there's a lady in here? That was my wife, 17-year-old girl sitting there. So he took me to the other room, and he was all over me, hugging me, and he had gone to my Hollywood Bowl concert, and but him and many that now I see in books, biographies and autobiographies and books written, and just parties that I've gone to with Bob Hope. I have sat in the LA Music Center with Jack Benny, Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz, which I was with him until the very end. He lived in 19th Street in Del Mar, where we lived in Del Mar. And I used to play chess with him every single day, Desi Arnaz.
Angel, you ready for our ping pong?
Yeah, I guess.
Here it comes. If I had not been a musician, I would have been a...
Actor.
My favorite recording.
Probably Bella, a record I did based on my daughter's name, Bella, of Chopin, of romantic,
My favorite guitar?
Is pretty much Rodriguez.
The book that you would take to a desert island.
I should take the Bible.
A musician that you admire.
My father.
A great leader that you admire.
The Pope.
My favorite guitar piece.
Dance number 5 by Granados.
Few words that define Angel Romero.
Not to be believed, but very humble guy. Because I don't believe that I'm better than anybody else.